Today we're gonna make the iconic German dish, Sauerbraten. This is perfect for fall, for Oktoberfest that's coming out. Here are all the ingredients. Let's get into it right now. Let's go into the ingredients quickly. There's like two parts of this recipe. There is the marinating and the cooking of the roast stage, and then there's the finishing of the sauce. For the roast, this is roughly, I think, a 4-pound rump roast. Rump roast is very lean, so by marinating this for 4 days, and I've seen in Germany, they do it up to 2 weeks. It will make it more tender and give it a very different consistency, a delicious consistency. Can you use chuck roast? You can. Almost every recipe I came across didn't use it. Supposedly it's not too traditional. That being said, chuck roast is juicier, but it will shred, you won't get slices. We're gonna marinate it in all of this here. So I have 1 bottle of dry red wine. This is a Rioja, probably a little too much money. I would just recommend going for like an $8 to $10 bottle of dry red wine. It could be Cabernet, Merlot, Pinot Noir, you know, anything like that, Chianti, it'd be totally fine. In addition to that, the other liquid is 1.5 cups of red wine vinegar and 1 cup of low sodium beef stock. I'm just using Better Than Bouillon's beef base. We have 2 medium onions that I roughly chopped, 1 large onion I chopped. Don't worry about the consistency here because we're gonna be straining this sauce. And I have 1 leek that we will chop up. I wanna show you how to clean a leek. If you're like me, you might have grew up in a family that didn't use too many leeks. My mom, I don't think ever bought them, and then she didn't buy shallots either. So I figured, you know what, let me show this to you because this is a dirty vegetable and you do have to clean it right. When you'll see what I mean. In addition to that, we have a 1/4 cup of raisins in the marinade. These are golden raisins. It's gonna add a sweetness to this. There's a lot of sweet and sour in Sauerbraten. This is like, that's just how it is. A lot of German dishes are like this. The German potato salad, rouladen. There is sugar in these dishes. I have 2 teaspoons of black pepper. I have 3 large bay leaves. I have 10 juniper berries, and I have 8 cloves, whole cloves. I also have 1 tablespoon of diamond Crystal Kosher salt. That's just 10 grams of salt. That's what you need, okay? So if you were gonna use like fine sea salt, you would be using less, okay? Like less volume. I also have 2 tablespoons, which is about 26 grams of granulated sugar. So again, the sweetness balancing out the vinegar acid of the wine and the vinegar. That's gonna be marinated for like 4 days at least. So we will do that first, and then at the end, we're gonna finish it with an interesting ingredient, which are these gingersnap cookies. So I've been eating these for days, they're so good. Again, my research showed that it wasn't really these that were used, it was more like a gingerbread that was used, but we're using that to thicken the sauce. So we're gonna make them like pulverize them and put them in the sauce. Even after 8, I couldn't get the sauce thick enough, so I used a little bit of cornstarch. I think you need to go easy here because if you use too many of them, you just might throw off the balance of your sauce. This flour is just a 1/2 cup of flour that's gonna be for dredging, so we might not need it all. And then I have another 1/4 cup of golden raisins over here. That's also gonna be in the sauce, the final product. If you, at that point, if it's already sweet enough for you, you might wanna hold back on those raisins. Personally, I love it. I love everything that's in this dish here. Let's get into making that marinade and getting the beef in the pot right now. Okay, leeks. This is 1 leek. When you buy them in the store, they're gonna be like that. That's how they're gonna look. I actually cut off the edge already because it was very rough, but this part here, you don't really wanna use. I mean, for this, because we're straining it, you could use some of it, but I just tend to just cut it here. You could save this for the compost bin, and you'll be able to see the end parts is where all the dirt is already. You can see all that dirt there. As you pull these leaves back, more and more dirt everywhere pops out. In fact, I think we can go even lower, okay? All right, so then like this, and then you can just cut this down the middle. So you can expose it here and you will see again all this dirt. All right, so let's just rinse it out and I'll show you how quickly it is. You can see how much dirt I have here on these, just a ton of dirt. So clean each side. Don't worry about drying them, it doesn't matter. See, like again, this part here, like you wouldn't want to use this if you were cooking with it. Now, all I'm gonna do is just rough chop this, doesn't matter. So now I have a big pot here. Just get a pot that's large enough to hold all these marinated ingredients, the liquid, and your rump roast. That is 1.5 cups of red wine vinegar, 1 cup of low sodium beef stock, 2 medium carrots that were chopped, 1 large onion that was chopped, 1/4 cup golden raisins, 1 teaspoon diamond Crystal Kosher salt, or 10 grams of salt, and then that is 26 grams of granulated sugar, or about 2 tablespoons. 2 teaspoons black pepper, 10 juniper berries, 8 cloves, and 3 bay leaves. Just get it all in there. I have the bottle of wine too. Remember, just use a less expensive bottle of wine that I'm using here. Put the whole bottle in. Look, I don't know, but I'm almost positive you could probably do this dish without wine and like grape juice or something. Then I would probably like maybe not put the sugar in. And there's definitely a way to do it because, and Tara, you know this, the final taste of this, like, I don't think it's dependent on the red wine. I think it can be done with other things.
Yeah.
It's more dependent on the vinegar. All right, so I'm bringing this up to a boil. Some recipes will they would just like put it straight in like this, but I feel like you want to at least try to dissolve the sugar and the raisins to get the sweetness in here a little bit. Okay, that is boiling. You could just turn it off. I say in the recipe card to simmer for 10 minutes. You just need to make sure the sugar dissolves, which is what will happen when you boil it. Stir this all together. Now look, you need to let this cool completely before you put your roast in. If you put your roast in now, you're gonna like get gray edges on it. Like you don't want that. I'm gonna just try to speed this process up a little bit, but it's still probably gonna need to sit a while. I'm gonna put some ice cubes. That's gonna dilute this a little bit, but it will be all right in the end. This is not the one we're making today anyway. I have another Sauerbraten in the pot over there. That's been marinating for, that's been 5 days now or 4? Yeah, unfortunately, this is still too hot. I don't really want to dilute it more than that. I'm gonna let it cool. Really important piece of information. It doesn't supposed to be 2 teaspoons of black pepper. It's supposed to be 1 teaspoon. I messed up when I was prepping those ingredients. It's a little too peppery right now, so 1 teaspoon, okay? I still think it'll be fine though, I do. So this finally cooled. This took a while to cool down. We're just gonna put our round in there. Closer to submerged than the other one was because I put a few, well actually more like 2 cups of ice cubes in here, so it'll be a little bit more diluted. Just make sure you let it cool before you put the meat in. This needs to be turned every 12 hours, so do it in the morning, then turn it again at night, go to sleep, keep doing it, do it for at least 4 days, and put it in the fridge. Okay, so like we're doing the emerald thing, this is 5 days. What we want to do now is drain this. We want to separate the meat from the vegetables. You need to save all of the vegetables here and all of the liquid. Also, set your oven to 300 degrees Fahrenheit and make sure that it can accommodate a large pot, oven-safe pot and cover. I'm going to use a Dutch oven, but you could use this too. Okay, Dutch oven's a little better because it has thicker walls. This roast is going to shrink dramatically after we braise it, and we'll just be able to just cut the string off very easily. I want to dry this off completely. It's going to allow me to get a better sear on it. Another thing I can go into is there's a large fat cap on here. Okay, they do this so they can sell you more weight. You can do a little trimming if you want initially. So we're going to salt and pepper this again. So we only used 10 grams of salt initially. So this is a 5-pound roast, so that gives us about 1,800 grams. If you're going by like a 1% rule, you want about 18 grams of salt on there. But a lot of people will go up to 1.5%. You don't really need to do it with this. There's a ton of flavor in it. So what does that mean? Jim, get to the point. Just salt the thing, okay? Add more salt on it. And I'm using just Diamond Crystal Kosher salt so I can just very easily get it on in a fairly even manner. Okay, and then pepper. Okay, and then we got to dredge this in flour. Get it coated on all sides. It's going to dry it off more. It's going to allow us to get a better sear. You got to really pound it off. We don't need to have too much on it right at this stage. Okay, I got my roast right here. I just stuck it on a piece of parchment paper because it's getting a little like wet, the flour and everything. I got a 6.5 quart Dutch oven here. I would just try to say, do one that'll just like, will fit your roast fairly tightly and the liquid. I'm heating this up to about medium. Okay, maybe a touch more. And make sure your oven is at 300 degrees and that this, whatever pot you use, and I do recommend like a heavy Dutch oven like this, that it has a tight fitting lid. Most recipes for Sauerbraten they're gonna have lard here to sear it off in. You know, I don't have that now. I'm just gonna use avocado oil, which is just a good neutral oil to sear this roast in. Once the fat cap starts searing, that's gonna release more fat. So this is hot enough, I think. And I'll just go with the fat side down first. See all this flour, like it got wet, like the marinade, it will wick no matter what, no matter how much you dry it. And then the flour will start to like become like pasty. Should have like had my pot maybe heated up already and then get it in, but it'll be fine. We'll just deglaze everything anyway. I want to sear this for about whatever long it takes to get every side brown. Just gonna flip this. Oh man, that's very almost burnt, but it will still be good. It's actually a very nice color right there. I might have to lower my heat just a touch. I was on like a 6 to 10, going down to about a 5. All right, so that's the other side there. Okay, that side looks a little bit better than the other one. Depending on how high your heat is, take like 2 minutes, 3 minutes per side. Did about 15 minutes total. This side got a little too brown, I think, but all the other sides are really good. Oh, lost my tongs. This is why I don't like these plastic tongs. I gotta get my tongue out of there before it starts cooking. God, the worst. All right, very quickly, just get this, all your sauce, everything in there. So wooden spoon, just scrape all those brown bits, which there are a ton off the bottom. And by the way, you can just pour it all in with the meat, but it's easier to dislodge all of the brown bits by removing the meat while you do this. Okay, just bring this up to a boil. Okay, so this is just about the boil. It's like simmering. Just again, with that wooden spoon, see if there's any resistance at all on the bottom of that pot that you dislodged every bit of the flavor. And also I took everything, last bit out of the pot with a spatula. I just did that, moved everything in. All right, I'm turning this off. Okay, this is your fat cap side. That's the side that I got a little too brown. I think there's probably an overabundance of sugar in there, you know, like the sweetness. But I want that fat cap up, so the fat will go into the meat here. 3 hours at 300 degrees in the oven. So I'm just gonna wipe down my sides, any extra fat before I throw this in the oven. And then at the 3 hour mark, we're gonna check it for tenderness. That's the first step. Just 3 hours, don't even think about it right now, in the oven, and then check it. So we have a lot of time here. You got 3 hours of waiting just before you're even gonna check it. And then after that, once it is tender, which could take up to 4 hours, and then we will still have to finish the sauce and everything. So you have plenty of time to make red cabbage, German red cabbage, which I think is one of the best things in the world. It's one of my favorite side dishes, and it goes absolutely perfect with this. I have 1 medium red onion that I sliced, okay? I have 5 tablespoons of granulated sugar. I have 2 Granny Smith apples, okay? We're just gonna put those in there. I have 4 tablespoons of butter. I have 6 cloves. I have 1 teaspoon of fine sea salt, but we might need more at the end. I have a half a cup of water and a half a cup of cider vinegar. I just mixed them together right here. And then I have a red cabbage, 1 red cabbage. I didn't want to slice the apple in advance because it would just get brown, so I'll do that. And the cabbage, very quickly. This is one of the easiest dishes you can imagine. You can also just throw the cloves in a sachet if you want, or you could just go crazy like I am and just throw them in blind and hope for the best, you know, which is not really like, it's not like you're doing anything too dangerous. I like to go about 1/4 inch thick, kind of like that. But you might like it another way. That's about 6 to 8 cups worth of cabbage. Just use 1 full-size red cabbage. I think you can use any apple. I really do. Honestly, we're putting 5 tablespoons sugar in here, and it might not be sweet enough. A different type of apple, not Granny Smith, would be sweeter. All right, I'm gonna take the clove, and I'm just gonna poke it in there. So I'll do this for 1 piece, and then the rest of them I'm just gonna chop up. So about that much apple. Make sure you have at least a 4-quart pot, but ideally 6-quart would be better. Depending on how large that cabbage is you got, it might not all fit initially, but it cooks down quickly. Okay, medium heat, butter, onion. It's gonna add a sprinkle of salt just to help aid in the water release of these onions. And we'll cook them for about 7 minutes or so. Let them get nice and soft, 7-10 minutes. If you start to burn, just lower your heat or just pull your pan off the heat. Okay, so those onions have been going for about 8 minutes. That's how they look. And then I'm gonna put all the apples in, except for that one with the cloves, okay? And we'll let these cook for a couple minutes. So that's good. It's about 10 minutes total between the onion and the apples. Here's the cabbage. Let's hope that we can fit it all. Sugar you can mix with your vinegar, or you can just put it on top. It's not gonna matter. This is all gonna cook together. That's a lot of sugar, but you need it.
It's a lot.
Well, it's 5 tablespoons. That's what it calls for. And I'm telling you, even at the end, you might need a bit more. You got to balance out this half a cup of cider vinegar. If you don't put The cider vinegar, you're not gonna need the sugar, but then you're gonna have nothing in there. You're not gonna have sweet or sour. You're just gonna have boring steamed cabbage. That's a half a cup of water and a half a cup of vinegar. It's the cider vinegar. You could use red wine vinegar. Okay, salt. This is 1 teaspoon fine sea salt. So just gently mix this together. Don't worry about getting everything perfect. It doesn't matter. So the other apple we put right on top like that. I found one of my lids without a hole sticking out. I mean, those, I was complaining about it in another video. They kind of defeat the purpose because we want everything to stay in here for the most part. If you have a little hole there, it's gonna all evaporate too quickly. We need to create steam. This is gonna take about an hour to 1.5 hours. So 60 to 90 minutes. Just cook it on a low simmer on there, just covered like this. It will finish before the Sauerbraten does, but you can just keep it covered off to the side. If you're paying attention when you're making the cabbage, it will have plenty of liquid even after 90 minutes. I probably had this in there for like 2 hours. Most of the liquid's gone. What I did was I just put a little bit of water in right now to like get it going again. But this is actually the perfect consistency. This little bit right here, see the apple with the cloves stuck into it? We'll just get rid of that. Let's check this. We had 5 tablespoons of sugar. We had a half a cup of cider vinegar. Let's see if we got the right sweet and sour ratio. Maybe a little bit of salt, actually. I'm just gonna keep it covered, and that's gonna keep it plenty hot. You could just, cook it very low before you're gonna eat, but we got about another hour before the Sauerbraten because we're doing 45 minutes in there and we still have to make the gravy and everything. So it's been 3 hours and 30 minutes. Listen, yours might take 3 hours, it might take 4.5 hours. I would just get it to the point where it's fairly tender in the middle. This isn't the same as like a chuck roast where it's gonna be like super tender. This is more about the marinade is gonna get it to almost like a kind of a mushy consistency, which you'll see. So we can check again. We put a fork through there. It's a lot more tender now. A knife, okay, let's see. Okay, it's a little bit more. It's still a little resistance in the middle, but on the ends, I'm perfect. I'm gonna call that good. Now this, I'm just careful on my pot. See, that's beautiful. Look at that. So beautiful. It might be too much fat. I think I'm gonna have to degrease this. Just tent this with foil, okay? We'll remove the string in a second and carve it, but we don't need to do it yet. Just take some paper towels like this. Just put it on top. Okay, just get it in there. This is a Jacques Pepin technique. This is what he does. The fat's gonna go to the top here, and it's just simple to just do this, and you're not getting all of it, but you're getting a ton of it. Perfect now. The sauce is like completely degreased, and that took 2 seconds. That's all of our grease right there. Now we wanna strain this, and then we're gonna make the most delicious sauce that's gonna cover our sliced Sauerbraten. No need to slice it yet. We'll wait to the last second. Okay, let's strain the sauce. This isn't the best setup here, but this is the setup that's gonna work. Okay, so just gently, let's get it in there. And I'm just gonna try to force a bunch of this through here, but don't go overly forceful. We want our sauce to be smooth, but we're trying to get these like last bits of really good flavor in it. Okay, so I just brought this to a simmer. So we want to thicken this sauce, and I'll show you because sauce right now is super thin, and this is definitely not what you want. So traditionally German, they will use the gingerbread or the gingersnap cookies. The gingersnap cookies I'm using, I don't know if they're like good brand or not. They taste good to me. I've been eating a bunch of them like every day. So I have ginger snaps, 8 ginger snaps that I just smashed in this bag right here, okay? So they're crushed. Taste your sauce now, because this is where we're gonna decide if we're gonna put in that optional 1/4 cup of raisins. If your sauce is too sweet right now, and it's not, it's a little peppery, maybe a little too much pepper, I'm gonna put the raisins in. And I'm gonna add in my ginger snaps. Now I made this a bunch of times, like I said, and these ginger snaps, 8 of them, will not do the trick. And I'll show you what I mean. Okay, but this is what we get right now after mixing that in. Okay, we get it close. It's close. When you start reducing even low sodium stocks, you are gonna get super salty sauces, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're essentially gonna skip that process and we'll just use cornstarch. I took 1.5 tablespoons of cornstarch, mixed it with a couple ounces of water. I'm gonna start with about half of that right now, okay? Just about that much. Okay, heat on cornstarch needs to be about medium. You go a little higher, and you can see right away this is gonna just thicken this thing up tremendously. The cornstarch activate takes a couple minutes, and then it'll be much thicker. You know, if you make it too thick, which I might have done right now, you can just add a little bit of water or beef stock to thin it the other way. See that? Much better. Nice sweetness. The pepper actually balances out now perfectly. This is a strong flavor dish. Like if you're not into strong flavors, this whole entire Sauerbraten might not be for you. Let's take our Sauerbraten over here. The meat will get much smaller, so the strings will be easier to cut off. This will work better if you do this overnight and it'll taste better. But you know, you're probably like, I already did 4 nights of marinating, Jim. What are you doing to me? Like, I just want to eat the darn thing. Normally you slice meat against the grain. You can look at the grain here of this. The grain is running this way, so you can make your slices this way. It doesn't really matter with this. This is, again, this meat's, you know, you're supposed to cook this too. It's like rare, but this is like an unorthodox way of cooking it. You're cooking it until it's completely tender. Doesn't matter which way you cut it. So I would say cut it to get the slices that are gonna look better when you plate it, all right? And I don't think it really matters if I go one way or the other. And I would do pretty thick slices of this. Okay, like that. See that gelatinous top is that fat cap. If you don't like it, you could remove it initially. You could actually remove it now, but it has a ton of flavor. A lot of people are going to love it. They're going to adore it. They're going to want to bathe in it. Okay, like that. Okay, and then I would put on about half the sauce, but save some for later for people. James has instituted a new rating system. James, would you like to describe it again to them?
Yeah, it's like everything's gonna be a little lower now. Like I feel like 10 out of 10 is like the best of the best, because some 10s were not as good as other 10s, so those 10s would be 9s. It's like 8, 9, 10 are all really good. 7, 6, and 5 are like okay, and then anything below that is bad.
So we did the red cabbage right now while we filmed this one. Spätzle we just made yesterday. I made a huge batch of it. That one I did a whole full dinner episode on Patreon. If you're not subscribed to Patreon, just consider it, okay? I know a lot of you like us. You know, you come here, you watch our videos. It would really help us, and it would help you. You would get another 1 to 2, possibly 3 if more people subscribe, full dinner videos per month. So we did like a pork loin with a nice pan sauce. We did spätzle, and we did a balsamic Brussels sprouts. So since we had that spätzle, that was yesterday, we filmed it. I'm just using it right now.
Really good. I love the sauce on the actual meat. And the cabbage is amazing. The sauce and spätzle is good, but like the meat just really stands out. Even with my new rating system, I tried this before, and like it's one of my favorite things that you've ever made.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. This is probably one of the best like dishes that you made that's not pasta.
Thank you, James.
So this is a 10.
Yes! Now listen, some people might think that this is like too sweet.
I don't think so.
Well, I mean, it has strong flavors though.
I think it tastes like fall, and I love that. I love fall dishes.
Yeah. Would you say that the Sauerbraten is probably sweeter than the cabbage? I think it is. It's very pungent, the flavor. I mean, I guess that would what would happen if you marinate something for 5 days.
I don't know if it's sweeter than the cabbage, but it has a lot more flavor.
Yeah. All right, I hope you make it. This will be up before Oktoberfest. Make this for your whole family, for your friends, to have an awesome Oktoberfest party. If you haven't seen yet, also watch our beef rouladen video. That's another great one. James, which one? You like the rouladen or this one more? There's those beef rolls with the pickle in it. Pickle and bacon.
I don't know which one I like more. They're both so good. I think probably this. I feel like the sauce is pretty similar though.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, we'll try both of them, okay? And we'll see you next time.